This morning, the president is making a claim about the economy that is just not true. He tweets that the unemployment rate is lower than the GDP, lower than economic growth for the first time in more than a century, more than 100 years. Again, it's just not true. You actually don't have to go back 100 years or even 20 years. Our chief business correspondent, Christine Romans, here with the facts, which are important this morning.
It's happened 62 times. 62 times. So the president's wrong that this is the first time it's happened in 100 years. And even when you look at GDP statistics, economists will tell you that before like 1948, the post-World War II era, the GDP was kind of squishy. You know, those numbers were a little squishy to measure. So we kind of like to just look at the post-World War II era. But this has happened before many, many times. Two examples where this has happened in recent years. We chose the second quarter of 2000. June 2000, GDP was 7.5%. The unemployment rate was 4%. Let's fast forward to 2003, 7% economic growth, 6.1% unemployment. So I don't know why the president's putting those two statistics together in the first place and looking at that inflection point and saying that this somehow shows how magnificent his economy is, because that's really not relevant. And it's happened a bunch of times. So it raises questions about how the president is processing economic information and what he thinks is important, or the people around him think this, or maybe he heard this or misheard this on a radio show or on a TV show or a TV interview. But it's just not true. What is true is the economy is strong.
Very strong.
And you don't need to exaggerate or lie
Anything.
or embellish, because GDP growth, 4.2%, the unemployment rate, 3.9%. Those numbers stand alone.
And especially job growth for some of the places where the president has done the best.
Right.
And among groups in which the president has performed the best. Blue-collar jobs.
Right.
Fascinating piece by our former colleague and friend Heather Long
in
in the Washington Post this morning, pointing to blue-collar job growth, fastest rate that we've seen in 3 decades.
Yeah, since 1984, 3.3%, the best rate for goods producing jobs. I mean, this is good. This is good news, and it shows you that 10 years into the recovery, it maybe is broadening out a little bit. One of the complaints about the recovery is that it had been slow and that income inequality had worsened. Maybe this is a good sign of that. So again, it goes to the credibility issue. The economy is strong. The president tends to throw superlatives out and facts that are just wrong. And I don't know how that advances the conversation.
Something that was confounding to me playing out yesterday is that the president seems to be giving Ford, right, big American car maker, business advice, saying, hey, you should build these smaller cars here in the U.S. because you said you're not going to build them in China anymore. Ford had to correct the record with a statement yesterday. What happened?
This was fascinating. So a few weeks ago, we found out that Ford was going to get rid of this plan to build a small car in China and ship it to the U.S.
Right.
It was this
tariffs.
hatchback. Right. The president's tariffs made it, untenable for them to build this little car in China and ship it to the U.S. market. So the president tweeted and said, fine, build them here. These can be built in the United States. And Ford said, no, we really can't. We're only going to sell 50,000 of them. We won't be, that scale isn't big enough to make a profit. And really, quite honestly, the focus in this country right now for the automakers is selling SUVs and electric vehicles. And there's a different focus. It's not these small cars. The small cars they could have made them in China, send them here. They're going to keep making them in Europe. They're going to sell them around the rest of the world. They're not going to make them here. So Ford's saying very quickly, I will point out there saying, no, we're not going to take the business advice from the president. We will not be building that small car in the U.S. after all.
Okay. Thank you, Romans, for being here in that important fact check on all of this. Good to see the job growth that we are seeing.
And it's real.
Appreciate it.